Good morning. It's Lauren from Portfolio Rocket. And since today we're talking about anywhere work, please put in the chat where anywhere is for you today, because here I am in Asheville. Our guest today is really like the foremost expert on anywhere work. And also that whole idea of how travel and has turned in from his passion to his profession. And we're going to talk a little bit about how it is that he has been able to create not just a successful company and community exploring cities together and building his mission about spreading positivity and providing inspiration and all that amazing stuff, and doing it in a way that people can work and explore and fulfill items on their bucket list. Okay, this is like, sounds a little too good to be true, but it is true. So Andy Lederman, thank you, CEO of Bucklisters. Thank you so much for jumping on this show this morning from one of my favorite cities, NYC. And please tell us a little bit about like how this actually happened, because there are many people that are watching right now that are going, I wish I could do that. Show me.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Your introduction was way too kind, but hopefully we have some specific insights that might be helpful for people. So I guess the question was how this all came to be. Bucklisters has been my dream since college, and I've pursued it for many years, and it didn't happen overnight. I had to balance a career in finance and kind of a side hustle of building my dream on the side for many years. And for the past 4 years, Bucklisters has been my full-time gig. And now we have an incredible team of 50. And like you said, we have some amazing policies where we are very flexible in allowing our team to live their bucket list while working hard on our mission.
Thank you so much. I just want to check in with everyone because somebody in the comment, Jen Fuss, says that she can't hear us, but I can hear everything fine. So Denise, I see that you're here. Can you guys just give us a heads up and let us know that you can hear us? I can hear. Okay, so cool. Okay, thanks, Sam. Appreciate that. Very good. Always in for the clutch. I love it. So just in case Jen didn't hear that last part, please go back and repeat this, because this was a dream of yours, right? It was your baby. And then you took this job in finance. Were you thinking, oh my God, like, how do I get to my dream faster?
Yeah, took patience, of course, but I came up with the idea when I was in college. I decided I wanted to love what I do and I wanted to create something. And I didn't know exactly what it would look like, but I just knew the mission to really help people get out and explore and pursue their dreams and pursue everything that's on their bucket list and really unite a community around that. It was a very lofty idea by a 20-year-old. But when I graduated, I had to get a real job, apparently. Started working in finance. And like I said, Instagram and social media was really our big break. I was living in Chicago and I saw the trend that people were spending all their time on Instagram. And that's where they were discovering things. They were discovering new products. They were discovering new restaurants. They were discovering new destinations around the world that, their parents had never seen because Instagram didn't exist. And I said, wow, this is so cool. I'm living in Chicago. I could use a kind of a city guide version of this. So I created Chicago Bucket List. And it turns out I wasn't the only one looking for something like this. It really resonated with people. And, as more people started to follow, I felt a responsibility to up our game, so to say, and post more and post, high quality recommendations. And we took that concept to cities all over the country. And everywhere we went, it really resonated with people. Turned out I wasn't the only one looking for something like this. And people, especially millennials and Gen Z, are really starving for experiences, and they had nowhere to turn to find them. And so that's what we've become. And it's been a really exciting couple years. And the most rewarding part, like I said, is growing the team we attract people who love our mission, who are explorers at heart. And now there's 50 of us, and we get to have fun while working really hard at the same time.
This is amazing, because a couple things that are really important to highlight here, because there's a lot of people, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, doesn't matter. There can be a hole in the marketplace. There can be a hole that you know how to solve for. And what I heard you say was you really didn't know how you were going to do this, right? You really didn't know. It wasn't like, oh, let me like open up my dream folder and see a roadmap. But you had a mission. And a lot of the time when I'm talking to clients or leading, conversations with large groups, I always go back to start with why. Why are you even doing this in the first place? Because if you don't know why you're doing this, nobody else is going to know either. And that is going to fall out of alignment. So with respect to your mission, other people were starving for it. You said that yourself. And so you had, in some ways, a little bit of a perfect storm, right? You had Instagram was working in your favor. You knew that this audience was raising their hand and getting all geeked up about it. And it was your baby. And so here you are, right? You're like in the earlier part of your career, and you're piecing together a company that has no headquarters, so to speak, no requirement to be in an office. And people are seemingly, from the outside perspective, it's the wild, wild west. You're over here and you're over here and you're over here and you're over there. How does this work?
Yeah, well, there's a lot that goes into it, but I have to give credit to my two best friends, Greg Kaplan and Sam Pessin. In 2015, they started a company called Remote Year, which I was an advisor in. So they really paved the path, I will say. Greg sat down as best friends and basically said, hey guys, let's get jobs where we could travel the world and work on our computers. And we all looked at him like he was crazy. And so did everyone. 2015 was very, very early to be saying things like that. So kudos to Greg and Sam. But obviously, prior to the pandemic, we had two offices in New York and Chicago, and we were kind of split 50-50. And, to be honest, we loved being together. We loved going to happy hours and visiting our partners and going to cool experiences and living the mission. And it was really important to us. But obviously, like all other companies, we were forced to test the remote philosophy during the pandemic. And obviously, our team just loved it. Nothing makes us happier than to see one of our hardworking employees, trying a new city that they've never lived in for a month, seeing if they like it, or going and traveling to new places while they're working remotely. And, I would say that productivity has gone up. Our employees are happier. They can choose to live where they're happiest and most inspired. And their creativity is at a higher level, and they're actually working harder. Of course, there's instances of, different situations that come up, and there are challenges. I admit that, and people do miss the connection of being together, but we've done a really good job of getting the team together, especially in our hubs like New York and LA and Chicago. Obviously, our company is all about in real life experiences. And so we have a plethora of options for our team members to meet up and go and have fun. And something I'm really excited about, which I think is very important and in line with our mission and philosophy, is that actually tomorrow we'll be announcing our first international retreat as a team. And so I see a couple team members on here. So unfortunately, the timing, I had to spoil it first here, but they'll all learn tomorrow where we're going. And it's something that's been a dream of mine and the leadership team. So,
oh my goodness, I'm like, I can't wait. That's really exciting. So you have times where there are in real life connections and building that. there's been some conversations amongst some of the people from the traditional working world that people who are only familiar with being remote could be missing out on a lot of the nuances that happen when you're conducting meeting, where people are sitting in the room, how to read body language that can't be conveyed over Zoom. I mean, after all, we're just in a box, right?
Mm-hmm.
And other things that happen, of course, through the spontaneity of water cooler talk or bumping into somebody in the coffee room. So how are you, as the CEO and as the founder of the company, helping them to understand some of those life skills that could be at risk without being in the office?
Communication is key. So we have, we invested really early in a people department in HR, if you will. We actually have 2 people, and for a 50-person company, that seems to be above kind of the market standard. But yeah, I mean, a huge part of what they do is making sure that we work efficiently, and everyone has managers and a direct line to not just the leadership team, but specifically me as much as possible. We try to do things like monthly check-ins or quarterly check-ins at a minimum. And then, we are, remote flexible. There's never a mandatory time where people have to be somewhere. But for instance, today I'm in New York, and we have a flexible pass to WeWork. So, I pop into our Slack channel and say, hey guys, who wants to meet up today? So we do definitely do things like that. Like I said, we try to do retreats and offsites as much as we can as well, but we do not have a stationary office. The one, the biggest concern that I have is upward mobility with everything that's happening in remote. I do think for junior people, it's a little more difficult to get FaceTime with leadership and their mentors and things like that. But we're very cognizant of that, and we really try to make sure that everyone on the leadership team has an open door policy. We really empower young people at Bucklisters. We love promoting people early, even if it's not standard by society's norms. But so you can really spot talent even in a remote environment and make sure that people have opportunity. But you certainly have to be really proactive about it to make sure that they get FaceTime, that you're meeting up with people, you're at least popping into different cities and taking people out and making sure you see the team on a regular basis.
That's really, I'm so happy to hear that, because this whole period, this inflection point, I hate that because it's like so overused, but it's still very true. Such a dividing line that happened as a result of what we used to be doing during the pandemic and what has happened pretty much since Labor Day, when the announcements came in from a lot of the big corporate companies like game over, come back to the office, or come back with this requirement. That is also fueled by a lot of talk of recession and the need to have that FaceTime in a way to ensure that your position is secured.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if you had a message for big corporate out there and what you would say to them about this and how to take your model and be able to impart it on a larger enterprise organization. What tips would you suggest for them to follow?
Yeah. Well, one, I think the biggest advantage to being remote, I know it's said a lot, but it just seems so obvious to me, is that it opens your access to talent to everyone around the world, really. We have a policy where we really hire people kind of on similar time zones. So we have a large team in Argentina. We have a few people in Brazil, and then everyone else is scattered around the US. So that works really well for us. I mean, it has been, we've hired most of the 50 people on the team in the last couple of years after the pandemic. And I could not be more thrilled with the dream team we've assembled. And I attribute that immensely to the fact that we've been able to look, several countries, almost around the world, to find the best talent. I mean, why limit yourself to a specific city? There's so much talent to unlock. And we're fortunate to have a global audience who follows us and who are fans. And so we can attract our fans, which, not most companies have the luxury of. But that one point really outweighs all of the challenges of operating remotely for us. And I have a lot of friends who have, built established companies with hundreds of employees at incredible startups who are headquartered in Chicago or headquartered in New York. And I obviously agree that it'd be more difficult for them to just kind of change their philosophy. And they have such a huge concentration of people in one particular city or a couple cities. But I will say, if you're building and you're really early in the trajectory of your startup and you're hiring a lot, that's a great opportunity. You're not locked into a particular market.
Mm-hmm.
So I would especially encourage, small companies that are growing to really adopt this philosophy. But for the established ones, there's just incredible, tools out there now that allow you to operate remotely. I mean, obviously Zoom is a very obvious one, but our team is consistently communicating. I think we're probably communicating more than when we sat in an office together. We're constantly on Slack, we're constantly on email. We have probably 10 different tools where we're reviewing documents together and doing all these different things. It's just been an incredible increase in productivity. People are just happier to work here. And so we get better work from them.
So this sounds like, even though it's an aha, people are happier. And what that means, code for they want to stay. They want to be involved with the community of bucket listers. This is, known in the talent world as retention and loyalty. And so when people are happier and they're feeling inspired by their work, the resistance to putting in extra hours or, really enjoying what they're working and forgetting that they're on the clock seems to dissipate.
100%. Our retention and morale has never been higher. And so it's certainly a decision that's really, focused on bottom line. I mean, this is a good business decision to make your employees happy and more inspired.
I seriously, I want that t-shirt. This is a good decision, because that's what it boils down to. It's not just a feel good. This makes sense. This isn't like, this isn't, there are challenges, but there's not really a huge downside, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to just steer this a little bit back to you, okay? Because let's face it, right? Here you are, hanging out, moving and shaking, going to all kinds of things, parties, this, that, all over the place. And I'm curious, while you're on the road and doing the deal, how are you able to lead by example? Because I don't see any moss growing underneath your feet either.
It's a great question. I consider, living the mission part of my work. For instance, I got to check a huge bucket list dream of mine off in March and went to Antarctica for 10 days. And, I was incredibly nervous. I have, since I've been full-time at Bucklisters, I haven't really taken time off at all. Even when I'm traveling, I'm working, and it's constantly on my mind, of course, and I'm constantly thinking and working. So that was incredibly nerve-wracking, but the thing that really put me over the edge to take this time, Wi-Fi was very limited, as you can imagine, in Antarctica, was the fact that, I did feel like I was leading by example. I want our team members to know that this is not just a business for me. This is, everything is intertwined. When I'm out exploring the world, I am extremely inspired, and I'm thinking, our mission is to inspire experiences. And how could I tell people and our millions of followers to do that if I'm not leading by example and doing that on my own? And so, we have incredible team members. Obviously, one very well, Sam, who's constantly, picking up his bags and going to a different country. He tried living in Mexico. Now he's trying Austin. And he's, one of the hardest working people I know. And so that is the perfect kind of person that we attract to our company, is someone who's really ready to live the mission, because they feel more inspired. They realize that as they're doing this is what we're trying to do as a company. We really want people to wake up around the world and realize that they can love what they do, and they can try new things and live in new places and explore the world while furthering their career or creating something. And so who are we to tell people to do that if we're not leading and living by example?
Yes, that integrity is not an easy thing, because it does require being uncomfortable. You're moving away from your technology, you're in new surroundings. There's kind of like that feeling that you need to oversee and all that kind of stuff. I'm not running your company and I'm not working anywhere, but I experience similar things even on the weekends, or even when I'm on, a couple days vacation, that, oh my God, I hope everything's going to be okay, even though I have people in place. So I can imagine it can get a little nerve wracking, but I really appreciate some of these comments that are here from Tegan. You're leading by example. And if your message to big corporate is, hey, source your talent from anywhere, because anywhere work allows for a larger talent pool, this would be my message. Walk the talk, right? And you, as the leader of the company, if you're not exploring, then it makes other people feel like, oh my God, should I really ask for that? Should I really take 4 weeks? Or, in the case of my son, Sam, it was 7 months or 5 months that he was living in a different place. So, this isn't something that in your company you want people to be shy about. In fact, you want them to be proactively developing that as part of their career development, and as well as their personal development.
Absolutely. And it's all about attracting and retaining the best talent. That's obviously the outcome of all of this. 10 years ago, before the pandemic, everyone wanted to work for the big tech startups because they had ping pong tables and the incredible offices and the collaborative work environment and the 3 meals a day. And they were willing to sacrifice things because of those perks. But this new generation, young talent now, is actually prioritizing and prefers remote flexibility, being able to live where makes them happiest over anything else. And so just by implementing that, you're going to attract more talent. Where companies like ours are going to steal talent from the big corporate, as you call it, because they could potentially offer more pay. They're obviously more established companies, or different things that maybe used to be more attractive, or the most attractive features of a job. But now this generation really prefers and prioritizes remote flexibility and things like that over anything else. And
experiences, for sure. Absolutely. For sure. Yes. Okay. So this is like the $1 million question, which I know is going to change. So we'll have to have you back at another point in time. Okay. So what is on your bucket list? Because I'm sure that it's a big bucket. So what's next? What's next for Andy? Either bucket list within the organization, bucket list to travel. What is your kind of thing that you're itching for?
Yeah. Well, as meta as this sounds, obviously, creating and growing Bucklisters to be a global household name has always been the most important thing on my bucket list, and is my kind of number one dream. But in the near term, I have my 7th continent to go. I need to go to Australia.
You need to.
Yes, so I'm very excited about that. Hopefully, I'll do that within the next year. And then I'm trying to go to space by age 40. And I think one that I really need to start moving on is running a marathon on all 7 continents. So I need to pick up the pace, because I've only done 2 so far.
So it's interesting because these are incredible, right? I mean, you and Elon in SpaceX, I could just see it now. Like it's,
you
or
can't.
your own. And I just put a question in the chat, like, what's on your bucket list? And I love to offer that to people today at any time, because, you know, cliche as it is, life is short. And if you aren't earmarking some of these experiences, how do you ensure that they're going to happen? And it's funny because this was not synced up, this particular, wait, what? Marathons run in Antarctica? There's a comment there.
It's a very real thing. Very real thing. Yep.
And this guy, to the moon. Yeah, I'm all about that. So what I was about to say is that I'm kind of doing a little bucket lister experiment over here because, as you know, my husband and I are checking out this city, and we're like, oh, we should. And I think that you inspired that consciously or subconsciously. I'm not really sure, but I think that this idea of making more like a plant rather than a tree has some valid applications as we go through different parts of our lives, and really are able to do so much from so many different places. So, you know, for anybody who doesn't have a bucket list, you know, create one. I'm going to encourage people to do that, even if you're not telling us to do that, because I think I want to be part of your mission. I mean, let's face it. Why not?
I think it's the most important and interesting conversation you could have with someone. It really, you know, brings out what their dreams are. And when you hear other people's items, what's on their list, it might inspires you to add whatever they have. And maybe something that's on their list you've done, and you can give recommendations. And that was really the original thesis, is like, that's the best thing to share with someone. And obviously, you know, what comes from that is everyone actually goes out and explores together, and having shared experiences with people you love is what life's all about, in our opinion.
Oh my goodness. I have like the little goose pimple chills, because I'm going to start using that as part of some of the ways that I qualify for people that I work with, because I want people to be big thinkers and dreamers and have that element, because I think that a lot of that gets trampled on through the course of life, where we're actually not told how to develop a bucket list, but in fact how to remove the items from your list and compress it into smaller pieces, so that we don't rock the boat too much. So I really, really, really want to applaud the fact that this is a mission for you, that you're doing something about it, that you're building not just a domestic audience, but really taking this out into an international community of people who are explorers and excited about doing it, and are supporting it in all facets of the organization. So congratulations. Thank you so much from the bottom of my big Asheville heart right now for coming on the show, for being so candid and really inspiring all of us to get out and do what we love and work too. So those two things are not mutually exclusive. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. If you have any questions or anything that you want to explore with bucket listers, you can either email me at Lauren Greif or lauren@portfoliorocket.com. You'll find me on LinkedIn, or certainly go to Andy's website page on LinkedIn and see what you find, because there's a lot of good stuff.
Thank you so much. I love your show, everything you talk about. Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course. Just hang around for a minute and we'll wrap it up. Thanks. Bye-bye.